we are back.
It's us again, the Horror Guys.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
Episode 138 has, believe it or not, horror films.
No.
This week we got 4 regular old movies and a short, like usual.
Uh-huh.
What do we got?
We got Malignant, a brand new one that came out this year.
Liked that.
And Willard, one that came out 50 years ago.
I like that.
1971. And Scanners.
I like that.
Came out 40 years ago in 1981. And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which messes up our even decades. Yeah, what year was Texas Chainsaw?
74.
I don't have that. 74. I knew it was early 70s, yeah.
And I like that. Well,
Almost
there's all
50
my
years.
opinions. I'm out of here.
Almost 50 years.
They're old. You're old.
You're old.
Oh.
Yeah.
And here we are. It's the Old Horror Guys podcast.
Just because I saw Texas Chainsaw when I was 9 doesn't mean that I'm old.
It just means you're messed up inside. All right, well, we got, in my opinion, 4 good movies and a short this time. And be sure to check out horrorguys.com to read all the reviews and stuff. We've got books.
We got books.
5 or 6 books now. horrorguys.com/books to check out the whole mess.
And there's some spiffy new stuff on the website you've been fiddling around with, tweaking and stuff.
There is, yeah.
Should check out.
Fiddling. Well, if we're going to fiddle around on the website. Let's start out with the oldest one first.
I was just going to suggest Willard. And in my opinion, this is the weakest of the 4, too. So
okay,
you're saying...
No, I'm not going to argue with that.
You got... Well, yeah. But you're saying, 4 really good movies, and I'm saying, 3 really good movies and 1 kind of good movie. I don't hate it, but yeah.
Okay.
You should tell us about it.
I like it, but it's definitely a little dated.
Mm-hmm.
Directed by Daniel Mann. Written by Gilbert Ralston and Stephen Gilbert. Stars Bruce Davison, Elsa Lanchester, Sandra Locke, and Ernest Borgnine. Hour and 35 minutes. There is a link in the show notes if you want to watch the trailer from 1970, the 50-year-old movie trailer.
Dang.
All right, so listen, something new we're doing on the site, and I guess we can do it on the podcast too, is the non-spoiler judgment zones section.
A quick and fast opinion.
Yeah, previously we'd give the entire synopsis of the movie and then talk about whether we liked it or not. We're going to give you a quick TLDR about whether we liked it or not before we get into the spoilers. So our spoiler-free judgment zone says it's like 50 years old. So it's probably not a spoiler to say this is the best rat movie ever made. Would you agree with that?
Well, I haven't seen all the rat movies. So
sounds like Disney rat movie.
I'm sure there's some I haven't seen, but yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was good enough to get a remake in 2003, which we're going to review eventually.
I mean, the animal handling and training in this was, pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And I reading the trivia, it took a lot of takes to get these things right a lot, but yeah, there's a lot of, and it's real animals. I mean, there was no pre-CGI.
No CGI.
These are all real rats.
I'm not sure about that 2003 remake if they were all real or not. They had CGI by that point.
And some puppetry. I heard that some puppetry was used in the remake.
One. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about CGI, but puppetry was a thing.
Well, these
were all real animals. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, we mostly sort of recommend it. Kevin thought it was a little dated and pretty dull. But I say it was a formative part of my childhood.
Okay.
All right, on to the synopsis.
See, I might have missed this one in my childhood. I saw it later.
Oh.
Saw it in the 80s, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Credits roll over clips of a metal foundry with workers hard at work. Nothing starts out a horror film like metal work.
Mm-hmm.
Willard's walking out, done for the day, but his boss Martin stops him and hands a big packet of work over to him that he needs done over the weekend. It takes just long enough that Willard misses his bus. It's going to be that kind of guy, isn't he?
Yep, he is. It's kind of a sad sack.
Kind of definitely. He gets home and his mother and her ancient friends give him a birthday party. They invited Mr. Martin to the party, but of course he doesn't come. What would you say if your mother invited your boss to a birthday party?
I say that'd be kind of weird.
It would be. Very weird.
Well, I like my boss, and I've liked my current boss, so, it'd probably be okay, but that's odd. I mean, it's just kind of strange. Yeah.
Well, they all say Willard needs to toughen up and become more aggressive, but he's a quiet, introverted kind of guy.
Yeah, and in this case, Willard does not like his boss. His boss is a mean bully, and
no, definitely.
Yeah, he's not a good guy. Yeah.
Well, it seems Mr. Martin stole the business from Willard's father a few years back. Willard goes out in the backyard to sulk and notices a rat on the ground. He throws a piece of cake at it to make it go away, but the rat has the opposite reaction. It likes the cake. Later, his mother gets on him for letting the house fall apart. She even saw a rat in the yard.
Oh, no.
And when is he going to talk about Mr. Martin about his job?
Just one rat to start with.
That's all it takes.
And then, it goes from there.
Before long, Willard has a whole little family of rats in the backyard that he feeds regularly. They're almost tame. Monday morning, he's a bit late for work and Martin isn't happy. Willard gets chewed out once again for being behind. Martin even hires an assistant for Willard so he can get caught back up. He threatens to fire Willard if he doesn't get caught up, but work just gets worse and worse, but at least he can work on training his rats when he gets home.
It's just a harmless hobby for now.
His overbearing mother asks him if he killed the rats, and of course he says he did. His mother's a hypochondriac, and she calls up Charlotte to come over and help with the house. Willard doesn't like Charlotte very much. All these overbearing old women.
Yeah, they're very overbearing. Yeah.
Willard teaches the rats to understand his words. He names a few of the smarter ones, Queenie and Socrates, and the big one that comes later is called Ben. He starts breeding them, and before long, there are a lot of rats.
And spoiler, there's a spin-off later, a spin-off sequel called Ben.
Well, he don't die.
Yeah. Our rat hero makes it to the end.
Yeah, he does. Willard argues with Martin, and Martin offers to buy their house. Martin yells at Willard for not sending out his anniversary invitations on time, but he did. Willard decides to pack up a whole bunch of rats and set them loose at Martin's party. This has predictable results for the partygoers, and Willard then scoops the rats into his bag and goes home. That'll show him.
Hilarity ensues at the party.
The next morning, Martin gets a phone call. He goes out to the office and tells Willard to go home because his mother is sick. When he gets home, he finds Charlotte going through all their stuff as his mother has died. She's like going through the fine china already. I want that.
Yeah, she's kind of a pig.
Willard immediately throws out Charlotte, but he invites the rats to live in the cellar now. The lawyer explains that the house is heavily mortgaged, but there's no money. Willard says he has no intention of selling the huge old house, and a bunch of people come over after the funeral, including Martin and Charlotte. Willard, on the other hand, is happier with his rats. Charlotte comes over again and just lets herself in. She also wants him to sell the house. He yells at her and takes away her keys. He decides to take his favorites, Ben and Socrates, with him to the office on Saturday when no one else will be around. He goes into the office's storeroom and lets them out. Later on, Joan comes back into the office and takes Willard outside to find that she's bought him a cat. What? A cat?
Cats and rats. What could go wrong?
The cat really wants into his briefcase on the way home, and he ends up dumping the cat with a stranger. When he gets home, he finds that the house is going to be sold for taxes. He needs money because he owes $2,500 in back taxes. That was a lot of money in 1971.
Yeah, it was.
It's not bad now.
Yeah.
The rats eat a lot, and he yells at them for eating and breeding too much. He then goes to Charlotte for money, and she isn't very forgiving. His mother's other friends aren't much use either. They all say he needs to sell that old house. Of course, if he sells the old house, he has to give up the rats. So he's stuck.
He doesn't want that.
There is a big money customer talking about carrying $8,000 at the office the next day, and Willard looks up his address. That night, he breaks in and has the rats chew through the man's bedroom door. They find the rats and run out of the house while Willard steals the money from the man's money clip. Problem solved.
Right.
Willard overhears Martin talking about his plans for Willard's house and knows that Martin is going to fire him for leverage. Martin tries to bully Joan into helping him convince Willard to sell the house, but she refuses and Martin fires her. Willard packs up his 2 rats and takes them to the office again as usual. The 2 rats are a little noisier than usual, and Willard warns them to be quiet. He's like, you guys be quiet. And, they understood that.
Well, they do, but they don't care. Because
they're rats. As Martin gives Willard his termination notice, one of the office ladies goes into the storeroom and sees the rats. Ah! Martin then kills Socrates as Ben and Willard hide and watch. Willard drives back into work that night with a car full of hundreds of rats. He confronts Martin with all the rats with him. With his captive audience, he finally tells Martin everything that's on his mind. "Tear him up," commands Willard, and they do.
Peanut butter.
What? Peanut butter?
Peanut butter was used to assist with that scene.
Yeah, they covered Ernest Borgnine with peanut butter so the rats would like
draw the rats to him.
I wonder how many rat bites he got out of this.
Oh, he might have got some real nibbles.
He had to have gotten some.
Uh-huh.
Well, then Willard goes home, leaving Ben and the other rats behind. He's done with them. They're murderers, after all.
Yeah.
And when he gets home, he starts to kill the other rats in their cages. The next day, Willard and Joan have dinner. Halfway through, he sees Ben sitting on a shelf in the house. He found his way home.
Mm-hmm.
He checks the basement, and there are more rats than ever before. He throws Joan out and confronts Ben, who bites him.
They used a lot of rats in this movie.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Willard agrees to feed Ben and the gang, but he grabs a box of rat poison instead. Ben reads the label on the rat poison box and squeaks out a warning to the others. Now, wait a minute, when did he teach the rats to read?
That's a really smart rat.
Willard then attacks Ben with a broom, but we see who's boss now.
Uh-huh.
All right, well, I saw this when I was little, and I could have sworn it was black and white, but it wasn't. It was actually in color.
No, just some of the publicity shots are black and white for some reason.
Maybe it was the kind of TV I had back in the dark ages. It is 50 years old.
Maybe.
It did leave an impression back then, and my first pet was a hamster I named Ben. And I could never get him to attack anyone.
You tried?
Hamsters are lazy.
Did you try peanut butter?
I didn't think of peanut butter, but, they didn't have trivia websites back then.
Okay.
Well, Bruce Davison certainly has a crazy look here, so his actions are believable, and you don't doubt that he'd really do all this. He's pouty, moody, and is definitely a 70s version of an emo. He looks more like a teenager at some points. I mean, I thought he was supposed to be 14 or something in the beginning. But at the birthday party, they all mention he's 27 years old here. There are only two recognizable real rats in the film, the white one and the big one, Socrates and Ben. But there are hundreds and hundreds used in various sequences. Have we seen the last of Ben the Rat?
No, we have not.
I
Spoiler.
don't think so.
Yeah. So Bruce Davison, he was born in 1946.
Okay.
So he's an elderly gentleman now.
Yeah.
He's still working.
Oh,
still
he's in
making
lots of
stuff.
things, yeah.
Oh, still making stuff. Stuff's coming out this year and next year in pre-production and everything. And he's got 273 acting credits.
I know he was the evil senator in the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
But I know I've seen him in stuff since
just
then.
Tons of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's worked pretty regularly ever since.
Yeah. Well, steadily, yeah. Stuff every year. Pretty incredible. Eh?
What would we read? What else you watch?
You ever watch a movie that makes you so angry that your head explodes?
Yeah, I've seen some of those.
Oh, we're talking Scanners from 1981.
Oh, blew my mind.
Classic scene there, anyway.
From 1981.
Directed by David Cronenberg and written by him. Stars Jennifer O'Neill, Stephen Lack, Patrick McGoohan, and Michael Ironside.
David Cronenberg was in this past season of Star Trek Discovery.
He was, and that was
and
pretty
he
cool.
wasn't weird or anything.
No, just
He's just a character for,
yeah.
I don't know why.
I'm doing something cool. I don't know, fan of the show and fan of Star Trek.
All right.
Maybe he came to the people and said, "I want to be in that," and they said, "Okay."
Who wouldn't want to be in a Star Trek show?
Yeah. I mean, every time I've seen him in anything, he's always
weird.
Impressed me.
Yeah,
well,
he's
but
good.
Usually a little weird too. But good actor. I don't know. I always like seeing him on screen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have any spoiler-free opinions?
The Judgment Zone. Yes. It's a conspiracy-centered story about mind-controlling telepathic assassins and the mad scientist who created them.
And it says that right in the blurb, so that's not a spoiler.
If that doesn't blow your mind, then the rest of the film will.
Yeah.
We both liked it a lot. I saw this one at the theater when it came out.
I didn't see this one until...
I haven't seen it since.
Quite a long time after it came out. So maybe in the 90s.
This was my second viewing. Yeah. And it had been a while.
Yeah.
I read the book, too. Yeah.
You've read all these books.
A lot of books, yeah. Book followed it pretty close.
Okay. Yeah. Other than Stephen King and I think Dan Simmons, I haven't read that much horror.
Yeah, this was a good one.
Okay, well, what happens?
Well, a homeless-looking guy walks through the mall stealing food from other people's used trays. Two judgmental old women start giggling about him. But he makes one of them have a seizure. Yeah. A couple of guys in trench coats, who aren't the police, shoot the homeless man with a tranquilizer. He
almost as if they were expecting him to be there.
Yeah, or trailing him, watching him, yeah. And they drag him away. Well, he eventually wakes up, cleaned up, and strapped down to a bed. Dr. Paul Ruth walks over and asks the man, whose name is Vale, why he doesn't use his power more constructively. Ruth explains that Vale is a scanner. He doesn't even really know what he is. He's got this power and doesn't understand it. Yeah, a topic that Dr. Ruth says he studies carefully.
Dr. Ruth.
Well, he brings in dozens of spectators, and the number of people make Vale go crazy. He can hear their thoughts, which I thought was kind of a neat scene. You hear.
I'm not sure what the purpose of it was.
To test him, I guess, and demonstrate what that drug can do for him.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah, this is what the drug can do for you.
But it's all these people sitting around, not saying a word, just watching him, and he hears all their inner thoughts as this overwhelming babble.
All of you, shut up!
Yeah,
they're not saying anything.
Well, Ruth gives Vale an injection, which calms down the voices in his head, and he can hear his own voice. I thought that was an interesting scene where Dr. Ruth's talking to him. What's it like? And because it's the first time that he's heard just his own inner voice, and this is weird. I am kind of lonely and kind of scared, and
I like it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Well, he explains that it's a drug that suppresses the scanner abilities. Well, meanwhile, a man who claims to be a scanner is doing a presentation in front of an audience, and he asks for a volunteer to come up and concentrate. The man looks like he's in pain, and the volunteer looks angry. This is up in front of a small audience. And they seem to be having a mental battle, and the volunteer starts to smile as the first man's head explodes violently.
Literally, boom!
Yeah, he's been outscanned.
If you've ever seen anything about scanners, you've seen that scene.
Turns out the volunteer was a stronger scanner named Daryl Revok, who was taken into custody by gunpoint. He infiltrated and wanted to kill this other scanner. Revok makes the doctor sedate himself, and then makes all the security guys die, mostly by their own hands, which was a pretty cool scene. Yeah. Oh, no, it's a pretty cool movie.
I didn't kill nobody. They did it themselves.
Yeah. Well, Braden Keller is named the new head of internal security for CONSEC after that fiasco, and he wants to drop the scanner program. They've got this idea that they're going to weaponize these people and use them, but, it's obviously not working out. The only scanner they had on their side just got, was scanned.
All the scanners just seem to be going somewhere else.
Yeah, there are 236 known scanners, they say, and none of them are working for CONSEC, and they can't even find most of them. Well, Dr. Ruth thinks there's a scanner underground that is hiding all of them. Ruth wants Revok eliminated, and he wants to train an unknown scanner to infiltrate the underground, and Ruth just happens to have one.
Just one.
Vale.
The new guy.
Well, scanners have a certain form of ESP and telepathy. Ruth says he doesn't know why. Ephemeral is a scanner-suppressing drug that temporarily prevents the voices in Vale's head and disables his powers. Ruth shows Vale a 12-year-old film of Revok in a psychiatric ward after he tried to drill a hole in his head.
Yeah, you notice Revok's got the little scar on his forehead.
Because he really did
what's
try.
That about?
Yeah, because he needed to let out the voices.
Yeah, didn't help.
Yeah. Well, today Revok has been killing all the scanners who refuse to join him. We see that Mr. Keller is reporting to Revok. He's a mole. He tells Revok the plan to get Vale to go undercover and infiltrate Revok's group. So the plan is out of the bag. Yeah. Vale goes to see Benjamin Pierce, a scanner who has been more or less reformed with art therapy and knows how to contact Revok. People break into the house and shoot the place up, including Pierce. Pierce sends Vale a message with his dying thoughts. So Vale is kind of like on a detective-y quest. He goes to the art dealer's agent, actually, and he won't tell him where the art dealer lives. And Vale says, well, maybe you could just think about where he lives.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
Yeah, and gets it from his mind. And,
Don't think about this thing that I want to know.
Yeah. Well, Pierce told Vale to go see Kim Oberst, which he does, and she's with a group of scanners in a kind of support group living in secret, and they all link together mentally when assassins break in. They didn't leave anybody watching the door. They're all upstairs linked. Not. Yeah. Well, they shoot several of them, but a few get away, and soon Vale and Kim are the only ones left.
And then there were two.
Yeah. Vale tracks Revok to a pharmaceutical company that makes ephemeral. They're mass-producing it for some reason. Well, it looks like the drug is all going to Consec. Yeah. Revok orders Keller to kill Ruth if he finds out too much. Vale tells Ruth everything, and they decide there must be a traitor at Consec. Well, Keller interrogates Kim, and it goes badly for Keller. Oh, because Vale and Kim went to Consec, and the security, injected them with the ephemeral,
but
which
not
was
her.
supposed to. Well, no, Ruth switched it for just saline solution.
Yeah.
Neither of them got injected for real, so she's still got her power. She deals with Keller, not effectively though. I mean, she could have really finished him. Should have, Well, she knows that Kim isn't really in Revok's group. She gets away, but Keller orders that both scanners be killed. And Ruth, in the meantime, just kind of has a breakdown. He starts talking to himself and babbling. And
what was that about?
I think he just, I don't know, guilt got to him. And, yeah, I don't know exactly. It was kind of weird. He just kind of broke down and started babbling about the past and what he did. And it's like all the guilt crashed in on him at once.
Bad timing.
Yeah, Keller kills him, shoots him in the head. Well, they need, Vale and Kim need the information on where the other scanners are. And one thing Ruth said before he had his breakdown was, a computer is basically just a mind, sort of, and a scanner could link with a computer. Which, kind of a stretch, but
you
also
can't see
kinda,
that, but I'm rolling my eyes.
Yeah, okay, kind of a technological stretch. So anyway, outside at a phone booth, Vale dials into the computer, this big mainframe system, and hacks in using his mind to find the list of people who are receiving ephemeral. And he scans the computer. Keller figures out that somebody's hacking into the computer and orders it to be shut down with a program, self-destruct program. And they're like, okay, the computer is quietly shutting down, and Vale is, fighting it, sweating, and the technician says, see, all shut down, no fireworks.
There's nothing to see. It's just going to be silently deleted.
Yeah, and then it just blows up because Vale is still in there. And yeah, it's like the guy's head exploding, only it's the computer
the
exploding.
Whole room.
Yeah, and that takes care of Keller.
Yeah,
and the technicians. Yeah, well, they go see a doctor who is on the list, who's been receiving ephemeral. And Kim is in the waiting room while Vale goes sees the doctor. Doctor doesn't know anything. But Kim encounters a pregnant woman in the waiting room, and the baby scans her.
Not the woman, the baby.
What they figure out
still
is
in her belly.
They are giving ephemeral to pregnant mothers, and that's where these scanners came from originally. Pregnant mothers got this ephemeral. Well, now they're deliberately, Revok is making an army of future scanners. Yeah. Well, they are both tranquilized and taken back to Consec. And Revok says that he's been looking for Vale for years. Revok explains that Ruth and are his and Vale's actual father, and they are brothers. Ephemeral was created in the 1940s, but the drug had the side effect of creating scanners. It was just a very localized test that they did, so there's not that many of them. But the two of them are the oldest ones. They were the first ones and the most powerful. So Vale doesn't go on board with him, and they fight, have a scanner fight, mind war. And veins bulge and bleed, and eyeballs turn white, and they don't have any exploding heads, but Vale bursts into flame, and till Redvock, and then fade to black. Kim wakes up in the next room. She goes inside to find Vale's body burnt to a crisp.
And he's a crispy critter at this point.
Yeah, and she's thinking, oh, Vale's gone. And then Revok stands up in the corner, except it's got Vale's voice and eyes. And she said, and he says, "We've won."
He took over Revok's body.
Yeah, he moved himself into Revok's body. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So
I believe all of that could happen.
Oh, yeah, totally realistic, yeah. Anyway, I thought it was pretty darn good.
Yeah. Well, the exploding head was a great practical effect, and it still holds up really well. Would you say they shot a pumpkin or something?
No, it was a real latex head filled with blood and raw meat, raw liver, I think, and somebody's leftover lunch, and they shot it from behind with a shotgun.
It worked.
And bluey, yeah.
The plot is a pretty straightforward conspiracy story with no real shockers until the very end. Got the whole Vale, I am your brother going on there.
Yeah. You will join me in the dark side.
Yeah, this is a year after Empire, so who knows. Michael Ironside has always excelled at playing psychotics who are having more fun in their evil plan than they have any right to. Stephen Lack, as Vale, is very generic and boring. He's a cardboard hero who doesn't show much emotion at all.
Well,
which is probably part of the role.
I think it kind of fit for this, too, because he's been messed up his whole life by this thing he didn't understand. And
has he had a whole life? I was got the impression there at their discussion at the end that he'd been in a coma or asleep for like 30 years.
Well, for a long time. I think, no childhood.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what happened before he woke up in that mall.
I think the impression was that he was just, woken up as an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kept on ice.
Kept on ice in the lab. Revok talks about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jennifer O'Neill gets top billing. She's the #1 main star of the movie, but she only gets a handful of lines and is only on screen for maybe 5 or 6, 7 minutes.
Yeah, she's Vale's sidekick at the end there. Yeah. I mean, she's good, though.
I guess that's just the way Hollywood, credit rules go. But it just seems strange that she'd get top billing. Compared
to the two guys.
Yeah.
Who had much bigger roles.
Or the 3 guys. The doctor even had a bigger role than she did.
Yeah. I mean, she was good in it and had definitely contributed.
Well, she was the biggest star at the time.
Yeah, and she was a powerful scanner, not as strong as either of those two.
I don't think that matters to the Hollywood credits.
No.
She made them put her name up first.
I'm just trying to rationalize it, yes. All in the contracts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hadn't seen this one in decades either, and all I remembered was the head exploding in the very first scene. I'm sure if they remade this one, heads would be popping all over the place. But actually, it only happens once in the film.
Mm-hmm.
The big battle at the end, you really don't see very much. But that head exploding, you see that everywhere. That is a very effective scene.
Mm-hmm. How many more scanner movies were there? Was there just the one?
I don't remember. I haven't seen any of the others.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
I know they're out there. There's at least one more.
Okay. Well, take this moment to remind you that, hey, you're listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
If you like the podcast, share it with somebody else. Send a link to the site. Send them a copy of the file. Hey, we don't care. Spread it around. Let other people know about the Horror Guys podcast. We would love to have more listeners.
Yeah.
More listeners means more listeners. That's
more
good.
Listeners, yeah.
So yeah, hit that share button on your podcast app and tell somebody you like the show. So, did we see a short film this week?
We did.
It's a very short one this time.
I'd like some carrots. I'm hungry for carrots right now.
Yeah.
Don't carrots sound good?
Carrots. Short film called Diet from 2020. Written and directed by Aaron Fradkin. Stars Wes Overby, Aaron Fradkin, and Victoria Fratz. 5 minutes, 10 seconds. Link in the show notes to go watch it right now on YouTube.
Very weird and worth watching.
Yeah.
There were 3 Scanner movies, by the way.
Okay. Does anybody we've heard of in the second or third one?
That's a good question. No, not really. People. But no Michael Ironside.
No, okay, never mind then. All right, well, a man peels carrots, but you can tell he doesn't really want them. He's not very good at it, but he's on a diet. So what choice does he have? He drops a piece and tries to fish it out of the garbage disposal. And you know what happens when you put your hand on a garbage disposal in a horror movie, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen, though. He then eats the carrots in the shower, which has to be a first.
I've never eaten carrots in the shower.
You shower somewhat often.
I do.
At least once a week, right?
I've never had carrots in the shower.
Never had carrots.
No.
Okay. He then takes the carrots to bed with him. He hears something outside, but there's nothing there. Or is there? All right. Well, you're going to have to watch it and see what happens.
I thought it was pretty darn good.
Clearly, carrots are not as healthy as they were advertised to be. The monster at the end looks cool, but the whole thing was basically just a setup to make carrots look bad.
Carrots!
It's an anti-carrot conspiracy. It was like carrots itself. It was fun, but not very filling.
But worth a watch. I thought it was fun.
Do you want to go to Texas?
Sure. Let's bring our chainsaws.
Bzzz. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 74. Have you seen the remake?
I have.
I don't remember seeing the remake. I've seen this one a bunch of times.
I did, and yeah, there's some other Texas Chainsaw movies out there, and I saw the sequel actually, the sequel of this, and I like that a lot. I even like that better than the first one.
Well, okay, I have seen I've seen something, but I wasn't impressed. The first one though was very good, directed by Tobe Hooper, written by Kim Henkel and Tobe Hooper. Stars Marilyn Burns, Edwin Neal, and Alan Denziger. Hour and 23 minutes. Link on the show note for the movie trailer. I like those 50-year-old movie trailers.
Yeah, pretty cool.
So if you haven't seen this before, our non-spoiler judgment is... It's gritty, dirty, smelly, and relentlessly intense.
Yeah, you can almost smell this movie.
You can, yeah.
Yeah, and you can feel the heat and the stickiness. And
it's just an icky movie.
It is an icky movie.
It's icky.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's got surprisingly little gore for the title, but it's the forefather of all the other slasher franchises. It's definitely worth a watch.
And I reading some of the making of and behind the scenes and stuff.
I guess it probably really was smelly.
It was really it was hot, and this was hot and smelly. There's a dining room scene especially that's got food and animal carcasses and just hot temperatures in a closed room, and it was filmed in Texas. The smell in the summer. The smell was foul, and people were foul, and limited costumes, so people were wearing their same costumes for weeks in the Texas summer heat, and there were smells involved.
Well, there's a long, kind of boring narrative introducing a bizarre crime and a true story that occurred in August 1973. Then we switch over to a radio report about grave robbing in Texas. Just that morning, a strange art piece was found of a rotting corpse tied to a headstone, and that we get to see. Dozens of graves have turned up empty, and credits roll. All right.
Okay.
A van pulls over on the side of the highway so the passenger, Franklin, a man in a wheelchair, can get out and pee. There's a slight action, and he goes rolling down the hill. Oops.
Oopsie.
I figured they were going to find a body or something, but they didn't.
No.
Sally reads a bunch of astrology stuff to Jerry, who says it's all nonsense. They park the van, and Sally gets out to see if her grandfather's grave is still intact. Was his one of the ones that was dug up?
No,
he's fine.
Yeah, he's
so
still
they
there.
get back in the van and continue down the road. Wait, it's a group of teenagers in a van?
What could go wrong?
They stop to pick up a hitchhiker, a strange man with a birthmark. He says he works there in the slaughterhouse over there with his whole family. He grabs Franklin's knife and cuts his own hand, which grosses out everyone else. He asks if they can drive him home and offers him dinner of head cheese. You ever have head cheese?
Yeah.
Oh, what is it?
It wasn't pleasant.
What is head cheese?
I don't remember what's in it.
It's not pretty.
No, it isn't. Head cheese dish. Meat jelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it was like. It was very gelatiny, but meaty, like soft and gushy, and I didn't care for it.
Yeah, I never tried it and don't plan on it.
I think there's a zillion variations. I mean, and the stuff that I had was pretty homogeneous. It looked like bratwurst, soft, the soft kind of. Yeah, it was very homogeneous and very, gelatiny.
Okay.
But that's basically what it is. It's those Jello molds that you make with fruit, and full of carrot shreds or whatever.
Yeah.
It's basically that, only meat instead of vegetables or fruit.
Okay, so the scariest thing this week is our discussion of head cheese.
Gelatin with meaty bits.
Which doesn't actually even make an appearance in the film.
And I'm looking at pictures online, and it looks like often it's chunkier than the stuff I had. But, I didn't care for it. Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
So anyway, the hitchhiker then cuts Franklin with an old straight razor, so they throw him out of the van. They stop for gas, but the gas station's all out, so they can't refill. They ask direction to Franklin's father's old house up on the hill, and the man at the station warns them that they don't want to go up there. Don't do that, says the harbinger. They make it up the hill to the house, but we knew that's going to be an issue later. Yeah, they're going to run out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
The house is a ruin, but they have no choice but to stay. That place is a dump, and they were planning on staying there for a couple of days.
Well, they didn't know it was a dump. They were just going there for the first time. He had inherited it, but he didn't know anything about it.
Kirk and Pam find another nearby farm and walk over there to hopefully buy or trade for some more gas.
Spoiler, it ends poorly for them.
They hear a big generator running, so someone must have gas. They see animal bones everywhere, but Kirk goes inside anyway. Leatherface whacks him over the head with a big mallet and hides behind a big metal door. Never saw this character before, but he just pops out of nowhere. And he's Leatherface, you can tell by looking at him.
Yeah, he's wearing
Nobody calls him that.
But, yeah, that's what he's wearing, yeah.
Pam follows inside looking for Kirk, and she finds what a strange place this actually is when she finds a human skeleton. Leatherface opens his door, squeals like, "Ee!" and then grabs Pam and hangs her on a metal meat hook. Leatherface then picks up a chainsaw and beheads the already dead Kirk. Meanwhile, Jerry goes looking for the missing twosome, leaving Franklin and Sally to wait back at the house alone. He finds the same house and goes in just like everyone else. Leatherface's mallet does its job again. 3 down. And there was mention with the slaughterhouse earlier, how the slaughterhouse uses this gun thing to shoot the cows in the forehead, which is painless and quick.
Yeah.
But he says no, the hitchhiker says, you got to use a mallet. It works better. The mallet's better. Leatherface likes his mallet.
You get that hands-on that way.
Yeah, the true fun.
Yeah. Ew.
Sally and Franklin go looking for them after it gets dark. Leatherface pops out of the darkness and cuts Franklin in half with a chainsaw, the only actual chainsaw death, as Sally goes running through the darkness. He chases her through the dark until she gets to the house and goes inside. She finds a couple of long-dead bodies upstairs, and she jumps out of the upstairs window, which hurts her foot, slowing her down. They all run back into the woods where there's a lot more chasing around. If there's a weak point to the film, I thought this was the point. The chasing around in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it's intense, but it goes on a little too long.
Yeah, a little, yeah.
Sally runs all the way to the gas station where the attendant lets her in. You never get the attendant's name. But I know in credits he's Old Man.
Old Man.
He's not that old, but okay. He says there's no phone there to call the police, so they'll need to drive to the next town over. He knocks her out and ties her up. This isn't the rescue she was hoping for. He stops to yell at the hitchhiker. I told you to stay away from that graveyard. Look at what your brother did to the door. Yeah, he's not upset about the bodies. He's upset about the damage to the front door. Well, the old man here is clearly the boss. He orders Leatherface and the hitchhiker to do things, and they do them. He promises they'll all have dinner soon. They bring Grandpa downstairs. He looks dead, but he isn't. They feed him some of Sally's blood, which he eagerly slurps. They like cut her fingers.
On a liquid diet.
Yeah, they cut her fingers and put him in his mouth, and he's like...
Yummy.
She passes out and soon wakes up tied to a chair at the dinner table. She screams, and the others start howling. After a good deal of torment, they bend her over a bucket and prepare to kill her, but poor old Grandpa can't hold the mallet straight. Hit her, Grandpa! She breaks away and jumps out another window. She limps through the countryside, but now the sun has come up. A giant semi-truck runs over the hitchhiker, but Leatherface chases her and the truck driver. Finally, a pickup truck stops and picks her up, leaving Leatherface frustrated behind her. The end. So she gets away.
And this movie, just works.
It does.
Yeah.
I think they must have made it for like $14 budget. It was
pretty low budget. Yeah. But yeah, classic.
For such a legendary, famous film, not one of the stars ever became a big name.
No.
You look at that credit list and you're like, who?
People that done other stuff, but no.
Yeah, some things here and there.
No big name.
Franklin is a very funny, hilarious character, but he's clearly the brains of the group, which ain't saying much. The slightly grainy quality of the film actually enhances the hot, smelly stickiness of the environment and makes everything just a little bit ickier. There's surprisingly little gore here, considering the title, and actually only one person is killed by the chainsaw in the whole film. He did behead the one guy, but he was already dead.
Mm-hmm.
There's not even a hint of sexual content in the film, consensual or otherwise, which is kind of unusual for a slasher film. Usually the good girl lives and the bad girl doesn't, but no, there's no sex at all in this. None whatsoever.
Not really, no.
Maybe that's because they were trying to keep it to a low R rating?
They were going for PG.
They were going for PG.
Oh, they really were?
They literally were.
I jested at that.
I don't think it worked out.
They had a hard time getting R.
Yeah. It all moves really fast. Maybe a better term would be unrelenting. The usual first act, where all the exposition takes place, is completely overpowered by the weird hitchhiker scene, so it's almost like pure action from start to finish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you get all the stuff explained to you as they drive, but it's all creeped out because of that weird guy who's doing all the talking.
Yeah.
It's old, it's low budget, it's cheap, it's also really, really effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
Which brings us to our newest movie of the week.
And my favorite
Speaking
of the four.
Creepy and effective.
My favorite of the four by far.
I think so, too. Well, it's hard to say it beats out Texas Chainsaw Massacre for...
Oh, it does.
I mean, in 50 years, they'll still be talking about Texas Chainsaw. I don't know about Malignant.
Well, okay, it's not good. It doesn't have that cultural classicness to it.
Yeah.
But it's my favorite.
If I were going to watch any of them again tomorrow, this would be the one.
And I can't emphasize enough spoilers on this one.
Yeah, don't listen to the rest of them.
Don't listen to this if you haven't seen it yet.
That's why we saved it to the end. Go watch it and then come back if you're interested.
Because, yeah.
Written and directed by James Wan, the guy who did The Conjurings.
Mm-hmm.
Stars Annabelle Wallace, Maddie Hassan, and George Young. Hour and 51 minutes. Link in the show notes to a trailer where you can get a really nice view. This one's on HBO, so you're not going to get this on the cheap sites.
Mm-hmm.
Non-spoiler judgment zone. We both liked it a lot. It has several surprises, and although we had theories as to what was going on, we were both wrong. That makes it really good in our book.
Yes.
There are massive spoilers coming, so be sure to watch it first and then come back. All right.
Having said that,
they all die. No, not that kind of spoiler.
No, they don't know.
Dr. Weaver does a video log way back in 1993 talking about her experiment. And she's interrupted when the assistant comes in and says he got out again. They can't control the test subject. Bones break, people fly out the door, and light bulbs explode before Weaver shoots it with a tranquilizer dart. She tells the others to strap him into the chair as they clean up the bodies. "You've been a bad boy, Gabriel," she yells. The radio comes alive, and Gabriel threatens.
Yeah,
I will kill you all.
Talking through the radio.
Talking through static.
Yeah, they didn't know he could do that.
Yeah, she didn't even realize he could speak.
Yeah, he's clearly getting more powerful, and yeah.
And then she insists, it's time to cut the cancer out.
Yeah.
And then credits roll. During the credits, we see text about a child left in their care that can control electricity and has attacked staff before.
And kind of a medical summary of
a lot of medical charts
medical stuff, during the credits. Yeah.
In the present day, Madison, who is very pregnant, comes home from work early. Her husband, Derek, is not very supportive as she's miscarried several times.
He's just a jerk.
What did he say? My children keep dying inside you?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Classy.
Yeah, he's a jerky feller.
But then he punches her, and she's bleeding from the back of the head. Knocks her right into the wall.
Yeah.
He apologizes, but it's clear that this is an abusive pattern.
Yeah, this is not a first time for him. Yeah.
It's the last time, though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That night,
she locks him out, and he sleeps on the couch, and bad things happen.
Derek is awakened by the kitchen blender, which has come on all by itself. Then the TV goes haywire, and Derek thinks he sees someone on the couch who isn't there when he turns the light on. But he was there. Mm-hmm. The Phantom then kills Derek. Maddie wakes up. Was that all a dream? No, it wasn't. He's very dead. Then it goes after Maddie, and she's knocked out again in the process. Suddenly, every cop in the county is there with detectives and helicopters. They're calling it a home invasion, but the forensics people say this is something special.
And there was no sign of a break-in.
Nope. Shaw, the lead detective, agrees.
And that stuck with me.
No sign of a break-in?
No sign of a break-in. How's that work?
But, we saw him appear and disappear, so maybe he's like a ghost or something.
Yeah, can come and go through walls.
Yeah, we don't know yet.
Yeah, we just didn't know. Yeah.
Maddie wakes up in the hospital, and her sister Sydney is there with her. They talk for a moment until Maddie notices that the baby is gone. She's lost another one.
Damn it.
Eventually, she recovers enough to go home, but she's clearly not over it all yet.
No, she's sad and messed up.
That night, the street lights start to blink, and she sees someone standing across the street. Naturally, she finds the back door open. Things get crazy, and she runs upstairs and hides. The next morning, we got a home security montage as Maddie boards up the windows and puts deadbolts on all the doors. They work so well that Sydney has to crawl in through a window. She still thinks that if she would have been able to have had a baby, things would have been better. Having babies never makes things better.
No,
it makes it worse.
It does for a lot of folks. It's
no,
okay.
It never does.
Oh, listen to you being all anti-family.
It just puts more pressure on things. Mm-hmm. Maddie mentions to Sydney that she was adopted and never knew any real family. And how does Sydney not know this?
She was never told her. Never told, yeah.
We cut to a tunnel tour underneath the city of Seattle. It's dark and creepy, and some of the lights blink randomly. The tour leader lets everyone out, and then hears someone still down in the tunnel. She goes in, and something not quite human kidnaps her and ties her up in his dungeon. I can't tell you how long I've waited for this, the radio says.
It's Gabriel.
But first, Dr. Weaver.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's Gabriel.
Yeah, going back to...
Although we don't really get a good look at him.
Going back to punish all the people that were involved with his quote-unquote care.
But we don't know who this woman tied in the attic is.
No, we don't know who she is.
Dr. Weaver answers the phone, and it's Gabriel calling. She starts digging through her old surgical records. Meanwhile, the lights and radio are acting up at Maddie's house. She finds her head is bleeding, so maybe it's a hallucination. She watches as the house morphs around her, changing into Weaver's house, and then she watches Gabriel kill Dr. Weaver with her own trophy.
So somehow they're linked telepathically or something. She's seeing what Gabriel is doing.
She's got like visions of what he does.
And he takes care of the doctor.
Time to cut out the cancer, he says. He says he wants to show you what the cancer has become. Gabriel was cancer or something. We don't know. What does that mean? I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. Well,
Maddie explains her vision to Sydney, but it's pretty hard to believe. Meanwhile, Dr. Fields, who also worked on Gabriel's case, has his own encounter in the dark. Once again, Maddie watches the murder happen in a strange vision. Once again, she finds her head is bleeding. She goes to Shaw and Moss at the police station to explain her visions, but they think she's lost her mind. Shaw finds a picture of a very young Madison in Weaver's old files. She used to be one of Weaver's patients. Way back.
Huh.
Gabriel calls Maddie on the phone, and he tells her real name is Emily. He says he's going to make them pay. They go to see Maddie's adoptive mother and ask her about any siblings. And she does, however, remember the name Gabriel. She shows them a video of Maddie talking to an imaginary friend named Gabriel. She had numerous terrifying conversations with Gabriel when she was little.
Yeah, and that's neat. With a toy phone, she's like literally talking to him on the toy phone.
Yeah, she talks to him on the phone, and apparently she hears him.
Yeah.
Maybe he's real. Maybe he's not.
Yeah.
A third doctor is killed as Maddie watches. Shaw arrives on the scene just after this murder and runs into Gabriel. Shaw pursues him down the fire escape and down further into the city's subterranean tunnels. All right.
That's quite a chase scene.
Okay, now...
That's pretty cool.
After I've seen the ending and know what's going on, that doesn't make as much sense as it used to.
What? Which part?
The whole chase in the tunnel scene.
Yeah? Why?
You know who Gabriel is.
Yeah?
Why didn't he see it?
Why didn't he see what?
Why didn't he see who Gabriel really is?
Because it was backwards. He was backwards.
Let's come back to this. Let's come back to this.
He did. We did see, and he, wearing the hood, Gabriel wears
he was wearing a hood.
Yeah, a robe with a hood, and you can't see it.
You
can't see him very well.
All right. I didn't remember the hood.
Yeah.
Shaw tells Maddie about the doctors and the medical case from before she was adopted. They want her to see the department therapist to help reconstruct her memories. One of those sketch guys. Gabriel did bad things, and Maddie always got the blame. He often talked to her on the toy telephone. Gabriel really wanted her to kill Sydney before she was even born. Wait, are you saying that the killer is your imaginary friend? Asked Detective Moss.
She's a little skeptical. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the girl tied up in Gabriel's attic gets loose. She falls through the floor, and it turns out it was all in the attic of Maddie's house. The cops and everybody watch her fall through the floor.
Oh, so that's where she's been kept prisoner.
Yeah, they arrest Maddie since it's her house. Maddie gets upset, and the light bulbs all start to explode. The phone rings, and Gabriel talks to the police. Maddie used to call him the devil. They lock her up with every female prisoner stereotype since the 1970s. Mm-hmm. Mostly a bunch of people dressed like hookers.
Yeah. Well, they think that's who they mostly are.
Yeah,
streetwalkers. But a variety of stereotypes.
Very. Uh-huh. Meanwhile, Sydney looks up the orphanage where Maddie lived, and it's a huge abandoned castle-like complex on a hill. Naturally, she goes inside alone at night. She finds the records room and finds a videotape interview with Emily/Maddie's mother, Serena. She'd been raped and insisted that the baby was an abomination. Serena heard weird voices in her head that told her to do bad things. She thinks he's the devil, too. The camera spins around to show us that Gabriel is a parasitic twin, literally growing out of Emily's back.
Yeah, that was pretty horrifying.
Dr. Weaver then surgically removed it from her. Gabriel can make Emily see what he sees. Dr. Field then explains that Gabriel could take over Maddie's body and control her physically. Yes, Maddie was the killer all along. She just wasn't in control. That's why she could see it. They eventually cut out the tumor back then. They removed what they could and stuffed the rest back into her skull. Apparently, when Derek shoved her into the wall, it reawoke Gabriel.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yes. Uh-huh.
He was dormant all those years.
Mm-hmm.
At the hospital, Shaw finds out about the tour guide/victim of Gabriel who fell from the attic. Turns out it is the same Serena, Maddie's mother.
Uh-huh.
Down in the jail cell, Gabriel bursts out of the back of Maddie's head. He's in control again. Everyone else in the cell is soon very, very, very dead, including the cop with the keys to the cell.
And boy,
this is not a smart cop.
Boy, is that some scene.
Yeah, it is.
Mayhem.
There's a lot of CGI violence in this one.
Yeah.
And it looks really good.
Very good.
Very effective.
Yeah, very well done.
Okay, Gabriel.
So she, and it's cool, too, because his face comes out of the back of her head, and the joints move back. So he's like backwards. Left hand is right hand, and right foot, left foot. Moving back. Picturing a person moving backwards.
That scene in The Exorcist where she crawls down the steps backwards reminded me
of that. Reminiscent of that. Yeah.
Uh-huh. She's doing everything backwards.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, it works out really well. Okay, so they soon kill every cop in the department in a scene that combines and reminds me of The Matrix, Kingsman, and The Exorcist all at once.
Because Gabriel is superpowered.
Yeah, he's something.
Physically very strong and telekinetic. Yeah.
But he's not really. She explains that later on.
Well, he is, yeah.
Well,
no, telekinesis and electricity controls it, So he's, they can't really stop him.
Shaw and Moss are wounded but alive when Sidney arrives. They come to the conclusion that Gabriel's mother will be the next target. Gabriel confronts Sidney in Serena's hospital room, but Maddie tries to control him. Serena wakes up and apologizes to Gabriel, but it's not enough. Sidney explains that Gabriel was the cause of all those miscarriages. He was feeding off the babies.
And that gets her out of her stupor enough to fight back.
Yeah, she tries harder to
mad
regain
enough
control.
To say, this is enough, Gabriel.
Well, he kills Sidney and Serena before Maddie takes over. He hadn't really... Oh, no, he didn't. He didn't kill Sidney or Serena. She was controlling what he sees now.
No, she figured out how to do the mind control. Yeah.
So she locks him in a mental prison, and his physical self just recedes back into Maddie's backside again. The end.
And she's got control of the body.
Yeah, I'm sure the police are going to be fine with that.
Well, that would be complicated.
Explain this one.
Explain this. Yeah, well, it wasn't really me, but it was.
Although it's clear from early on that Gabriel is out for revenge, we don't know why until pretty far into the film. The same goes for the mental link with Maddie. Is he real? A monster of some kind? Is Maddie simply an insane telepath? Is it something else entirely? The line about removing the cancer somewhat tipped me off to a basket case kind of situation. Remember that one?
Some kind of conjoined thing or something, but then that's, yeah.
But it didn't seem likely until it happened.
Yeah, it's so skillfully done.
Yeah. I gotta admit that for someone who spent the last 30 years as a dormant tumor, Gabriel is awfully spry.
Yes, he is. Yeah. He comes back with a vengeance.
And that ending, I'm sure the police won't charge Maddie with anything, and it'll all work out just fine, right?
Well, that would be a complicated trial.
The only time I can remember the Seattle sub-city being used in horror was from way back in the Kolchak the Night Stalker in the 70s. I'm amazed it hasn't been used more often, since it's the perfect nightmare fuel, and it's a real thing.
Yeah, maybe it has for other things, but we're just not aware of it.
Could be. Yeah, it's not used very often.
Yeah.
That's one of those places I'd love to go visit.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But they wouldn't let you in there, I bet.
Oh, they probably really have tours.
Oh, they probably do.
Oh, they wouldn't.
They're going to be really clean.
They wouldn't let you just wander around. Yeah.
The camera work in this is really noticeably impressive, with several really cool movement and tracking shots, and the whole thing keeps you guessing until the end. And yes, it's really, really good. One of the, I'm not going to say it's the best of the year, but it's certainly in the top 5.
It's one of my favorites so far.
Yeah. So, romance movies next week? Or are we going to do more horror?
Let's do romantic comedies.
All right.
Yeah.
We got some good romantic comedies for you next week. Some scary ones. We're going to watch Under the Shadow from 2016. The Day the World Ended, and The Beast with a Million Eyes, both from 1955.
Beast with a Million Eyes. Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
And another one to be determined.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a surprise.
Surprise. You'd be surprised when I decide what it is. All right. I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya.